eBay friends. This is episode 109 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is April 19th, 2023. I'm your host, Suzanne A. Wells, and my guest is Anne in Texas, who was an early adopter of eBay and is a seasoned seller with lots of great advice. Before we start the conversation with Anne, I have an update for you. Thank you to everyone who has purchased the newly released 2023 Bolo book. I appreciate all of you. So we need to talk about something. You guys surprised me. You'll remember a couple of months ago, I put the 2021 Bolo book on sale because I had a backstock and it appeared that sellers were not interested in it. But as soon as I released this year's book, many of you contacted me asking if I had more copies of the previous year's books, 2021 and 2022. So, since there is a demand, I have decided to print more of the previous year's editions. I think that some people didn't realize these books contain evergreen content, and maybe I wasn't clear on that. Or maybe some of you thought the information was outdated, especially in the 2021 edition. Or maybe some of you hadn't even started eBay yet, or just found my podcast and didn't know about these books. My vision for the Bolo books from the very beginning was to have all editions for sale all the time in my eBay store. And I modeled these books after the Covell's guides that go back to the 1960s. So if you decide you want to order older editions, those will be available to you. And I designed these books to contain evergreen information. So no matter what year it comes out, most of the information has been true for a very long time and will continue to be true in the future because these items are vintage, truly limited in number, discontinued, and the prices will probably even go up in the future. So I just wanted to make that clear of the purpose of these books. It's not hype. It's not fads. It's not stuff that's just profitable for a short period. I designed these so that you can have an entire set. Think encyclopedias. You're going to have an entire set of these as time goes by, and you can refer to them, and the information will still be relevant. So, I need to have some more books printed, the 2021 and 2022s. So, it will be a few weeks before those are available again. And I will let you know when that happens so you can watch my eBay store. And I apologize for the confusion on this. Sometimes you just don't know how or if an idea will work until you throw it out there and see what people do. And time is a very important factor. You watch what happens over time and make adjustments. So that's what successful businesses do. Lots of trial and error. And I have learned over the years that when you ask people through surveys or polls or just face-to-face what they want, what they like, what they say they will do is often very different from what they actually do. So sometimes the only way to learn is through trial and error. Okay, so now you know the Bolo book situation. Let's get into the chat with Anne.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back. Today we have Anne with us. And Anne, you are located in?
Flower Mound, Texas, little place between Dallas and Fort Worth.
I've heard of that many times. What's it
Yeah, people
famous
say it
for?
sounds like a fairy tale place, but
Is it famous for something?
no, not at all.
Oh,
We barely even have a mound that has flowers on it.
okay. Well, I guess it's going to be famous for you now.
Lived here 23 years, so I'm good.
Okay. Oh, 23 years. Yeah, that's a long time. Okay, so we're going to start with what brought you to eBay and when?
Well, I would say somewhere around 2008, because I do remember taking checks at some point. Oh my,
Hmm.
that was a not a fun time. But no, I started when my kids were younger to because I stayed home with my kids um, from the time my daughter was 2 and my son had just been born. I stayed home with them and I was always looking for some way to make money. I mean, I have a marketing degree from
Hmm.
Auburn University.
Oh,
And
really?
oh, yeah, because I grew up partially in Alabama.
Okay, well, I went there for a year.
You did?
I did. Yeah,
I
that was
started at
my
Jacksonville State University and went to Auburn.
okay. Okay,
So
yeah, I was there for a year and just the big school scene was not for me.
I only spent 2 years there, but I graduated from there.
Good for you. Okay. Very
So I
interesting.
I tried, gosh, with my kids, I wanted to stay home, obviously, and so I tried all sorts of network marketing type
Uh-huh.
places, like Creative Memories and Beauty Control and all of those, and
Because
I
that's
just
really all there was.
yeah, well, I masked all this stuff. It's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore because I don't like rejection. And
Hmm.
so you go to people's houses to these home parties, and it is 90% rejection. And so I decided, oh, I need to unload all of this stuff. But I didn't do that for a while. I started with board games because that's what I knew. That's what my
Hmm.
kids had. And so I started with board game. I just keep doing that for a while. And then I started selling the inventory that I had from network marketing. Um, and then I thought, geez, my kids are heading off to college. I better get a real job. And so I tried corporate work again because I used to work for Zale Corporation for the jewelry company.
Oh,
And
okay.
I got a job and I hated every minute of it because I had to, I'm an introvert and I had to work with people. And like, honey, can I please not do this? And so my husband agreed. And so I vowed to make eBay work and my other job, which is academic life coach. And so I make more money at coaching than I do with my eBay, but I do enjoy both.
Hmm.
And now my kids are gone. They're my daughter is a medical illustrator for a research hospital, and my son
Oh,
is a naval.
wow.
Yeah, my son's a naval officer, and so they're done. And my daughter's about to get married, so I got to pay for that.
So,
Oh,
mom of the year for raising those kids. They have great jobs. They're on
oh,
their
they're
own.
awesome.
You have done your job. Good for you.
My kids are awesome. But since my son is Navy, a lot of times I go out looking for Navy stuff to sell.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about medical stuff, but. So I guess since about 2008, I started slow. Really got my tax ID and everything around 2002. So I guess that was no. I started in around 2002 to 2007. I got my tax ID,
Okay.
got my business name, and I felt so cool. So, but I also volunteered at our local thrift store and got a lot of stuff that way
Uh-huh.
until they did away with their book section because that's what I did. Thrift
Okay.
stores, I mean, a lot of the thrift stores don't do books anymore. I guess people are coming in by the pallet and buying them. I don't know.
Or
Uh,
maybe it's a profit center thing. Maybe they're
I don't
just
know.
not as
Well,
profitable.
and Goodwill sells a lot online now, and so they take a lot of it and they put it online. But I've since abandoned games for the most part, unless I find, like, I found a Avalon type game, Avalon Hill. I love those games. And sold it just recently for like 100 and some odd dollars. I found it at an estate sale. I love my
Okay.
estate sales. But so I still do games every once in a while, but only if they just happen to pop up in front of me.
So are you one of those people that verifies everything's in there, and then if it's missing a piece, you buy that piece and make it
Yep, I'm
complete?
one of those.
I commend you for that. I just feel like that's so tedious if
well,
you don't know the game.
I'm a very patient person.
Okay.
And I'm extremely detail oriented. So yeah, I'll sell the parts if I don't have all of them, or if it's a really, really good game, I will buy the part. Yeah, and so I'm extremely organized, and like my whole inventory, every single piece is got its own little SKU number, and I know exactly where everything is and what bin and where in the bin, and I know all my money, my financial. So yeah.
Well, and the listeners can't see this, but behind you is some shelving, like your office, with
Yeah.
stacks of paper and maybe some flat
Yeah, this
boxes.
is all my shipping.
And everything has a label under it. Like,
There's
it
a
looks like
reason for that.
a storeroom in, an office when you go to the supply room and get what you need. It's just very organized.
Well, and that's so that somebody else can find it, because my goal is to travel and still have my business. And when I travel, I pay somebody to come and ship for me. So hence, I package everything
Mm-hmm.
as I am listing it. Everything except clothing, things that fit in poly bags and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
If it needs to go in a box, it goes in a box and it gets packed and then put away. Because I have a whole nother room of, the inventory. So I have the blessing of space.
Okay.
We have a very large home and both kids are gone. So
Well, everything's big in Texas.
darn straight. You bet. So we have 4 bedrooms, and I have taken over 2 of them.
Uh-huh.
And so it makes it easy for somebody just to come in and pull something from a shelf, put a label on it, and take it to the
So do
post
you
office.
have a designated person that does this every time?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And I
They
pay
kind of
them.
know your business.
Yeah, I pay them by the piece.
Very good.
Yeah. Somebody comes and takes care of my cats anyway, so why not?
Hey, you can teach people to do anything. Yeah.
That is true.
Got to find the right person. So let's back up a minute. You said if it's a really good game.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on what some of those are?
Well, like I said, Avalon Hill is a brand of game that think of things like Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
Those are the kinds of games that I don't know. There's just something, I have to look them all up. The one that I sold recently, I'm looking at my stuff here, and it's called Acquire. And there's an old version of Acquire, and then there's this new one. But they're still worth a lot of money. I would say 90% of the board games I see, not worth anything.
Yeah, it has to be something you've never heard of, or
Yeah.
see all the time. It's not going to be Monopoly and Scrabble and Battleship. It's going to be like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the old games you think are going to be worth something aren't worth the box they're, printed on. So I've actually ended up selling some electronic games, which is always good.
Mm-hmm.
But the games are one of those things that you sort of have to look up whenever you see them. If it looks weird, if it looks odd, or if it looks old, look it up. And so I'm in estate sales looking up everything that I see.
Mm-hmm.
And this one that I found recently, I spent like $3 on it. And yeah, it's called Acquire, and I sold it for 130. And it's
fantastic.
games is one of those things that a lot of times estate sales don't know what they have.
Hmm.
And that's what I always look for at estate sales, things they don't know they have.
And do you find that people who are into board games, they have a lot of them?
Well, I don't know. I never ask.
Like estate sales, maybe
Oh,
they'll have either a whole bunch or they won't have any.
well, yeah. And what I normally see is grandma who has bought all these games for her kids when they visit. I think that's mainly what I see.
Okay, that makes sense. Right. So you're talking about the strategy games or
Essentially, yeah.
I can't think of any of them. But
I know, neither can I, but boy, when I see them.
On the Money Making Mondays, I found one a few weeks ago called Munchkin. And it's a strategy game, and there weren't very many made. There's several versions, but the one I found, I've got $20 on it because it was all taped with that, not tape, but that stretch wrap. And it would have been a royal pain to figure it out in the store. So it was $2. I'm like, I'm just going to get this, and this could be a learning experience. If it's nothing, then it's nothing, and I'll redonate it or recycle it or whatever. But it opened up a whole new world of something I'd never heard of, and it's small. It's just cards and dice. So I was like, that's appealing, because some of these games can be really long and almost oversized because they're so long.
Yeah. This acquire game is actually a financial game.
What is it? Acquire?
It's a
right. Yeah, and like cash flow, Robert Kiyosaki's, and there's one for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are the few I know, but I think the rule of thumb that I've learned from other people is, the weirder the better, the more obscure the better. If you've never heard of it, then that's when you need to stop and do your research.
Yep.
Yeah.
My other motto is ugly sells.
That is true.
Whenever I'm buying clothes and I bring them home, my husband looks at it. He goes, "You are got to be kidding me." It's like, yep.
Oh, I found something yesterday. I don't normally sell pants just because I don't like photographing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's no harder than anything else. It's just a mental block on my side.
But, I'm the same way. Same way.
They were vintage Ralph Lauren floral pants, and they were literally something like you would have seen on Laugh-In. Like Goldie Hawn wearing these crazy loud hippie pants, with a tube top or something.
Yes.
And they just jumped out at me off the rack. I was like, somebody is going to buy that. Maybe it won't be till Halloween when they're dressing up as a hippie, but people have themed parties all the time.
Yeah. That's the only time I'll buy clothes anymore, is if it is something outrageous.
Yeah, it's got to just be super crazy, weird, never seen it before. So do you have some examples of things you've sold that were ugly besides ugly Christmas sweaters, which everybody knows about?
Well, not necessarily ugly. But so most people think Disney stuff will sell, Disney clothing, which is just really not the case. But there is one artist that does clothing for Disney that I'm always looking for. And his name is Shag, Shag. And his stuff is very recognizable. And so there are usually shirts and stuff made by Wonderground, and his name will be signed on them. But I found one of those at a garage sale for, it was $1. It was $1. The guy didn't know what he had, but it was Star Wars themed, made by designed by Shag, and it's like this modernistic type artwork. It's called A Wretched Hive, but I sold it for $140. It's just a shirt,
Now, is his name on the front, or is it on the tag?
It's not neither one. It's in the artwork.
Oh,
as a signature.
So it's like Picasso and it's just in there.
Yeah. Yeah. But once you see his work, you will spot these shirts from a mile away. And I don't find them very often, but he does more than just shirts. He does a lot of other stuff as well. But
Are you talking about t-shirts or like men's dress shirts? Or
this was a men's shirt, like a Hawaiian shirt. Think Hawaiian shirt.
Okay, with a crazy print. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And this one was this bright orange, and it would practically jump off the rack.
And
for you.
you're right. There's a lot of Disney clothing. There's everything from the El Cheapo Walmart up to, I found a vintage Disney hoodie one time with the number 84 on the front. And it was in commemoration, or it came out when Disney in Japan opened. And so there wasn't any Japanese characters on it, but I looked at the garment label, and I could just tell from the label, this is vintage.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't have Mickey Mouse on it. It just had 84 and then Disney real small under it. It looked kind of plain, but it sold for about $80.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of, you got to kiss a lot of frogs on that Disney stuff before you get to something valuable.
Well, and the first indication is if it says Disney Parks.
That's worth more, right?
Usually.
A little bit more.
But you got to look up everything.
And then Disney Store that's good for costumes, kids and adults costumes is Disney Store. So there's a lot of different Disney tags that you have to know, or you're just going to look them up in the store. But you're right. It can be overwhelming how much Disney is out there.
If it was something that was only sold in the parks, look it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And those Disney people will know that.
Yes, they will.
I'm not a Disney person. So people are like, I can't believe you didn't know this. And I'm like, sorry, I didn't know about those refillable cups and the
popcorn buckets and
all the things they have. Like, how would you know if you weren't into it?
That's why we research.
That's exactly right. And so I totally hijacked your thought there.
Oh, that's all right.
So you were talking about Shag and the ugly shirts, or the crazy pattern.
We're done with that.
Okay.
So, but there's some other things, some really off the wall things that I have found. I was at an estate sale years ago. And the little table tents at you aren't from Texas. Whataburger. Have you ever heard of Whataburger?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They're starting to branch out of Texas.
Well, now I have been to Texas. I'm just not from Texas.
Okay. Well, Whataburger is our icon. And I found literally a box of Whataburger table tents. They're plastic and they have the numbers on them. And there was probably 120 of them.
So like when you place your order, they give you a number and you put that on the table and then they bring it to you.
Why does this person have all these Whataburger table tents? All these numbers? I bought them because they were $5.
Well, and they said Whataburger on them. So
they're bright orange.
They're collectible.
I listed them all individually.
Really?
With variations, $10 a pop. I probably made $400 or $500 off of those Whataburger table tents. And I did read an article that Whataburger's like, we don't mind if you take them. It's essentially I don't remember. It was some kind of article. It says it's flattery. You take them. We love you.
It's like a Starbucks cup. People might see you walking around with it.
Exactly. It's advertising.
And a conversation piece at home, just stick that on your coffee table, pretend you're at Whataburger.
When my son was at the Naval Academy, he was supposed to graduate in 2021. And I sent him a table tent that said 21.
Okay.
And so he had it on his desk at the academy. So that was just fun. But I've gotten into a lot of plush lately. So partly because of you.
Honestly, you started thinking, how many am I leaving behind?
I know, because I was at an estate sale and there's, estate sales haven't caught on to that for the most part. So I found two very large pieces of plush. One was this husky dog. It was probably 24 inches, 26 inches, something like that. And then a Pokemon. Pip, Piplup.
Piplup, the penguin.
Yes.
Yep.
So both of them at the same estate sale. And they were $6 each. So one sold for 140, the other sold for 115. So I'm into Plush now.
That would definitely
Plush
get you
and
hooked.
Plush and loveys and baby blankets, and yeah, I love all of that stuff now. The Plush is a little hard to store, but like I said, I have the blessing of space. So
I sold one of those big huskies too, and I think the brand was Animal Alley.
let's see. Mine was Aurora. Yeah.
Okay, and even Walmart's brand Hug Fun.
Yeah. It just
The sloth I had was Hug Fun, and he sold for like 114.
that is
And
one that you
that's
would never imagine would
something
sell.
about the husky dogs, the big life size ones that
Yeah.
I sold one for 250. I couldn't believe it. And I just thought,
I'm just thinking,
need some more
who
of those.
are these people?
That buy them?
Yes. I was like, okay. People do love their animals. So
Well, I have heard of people buying a stuffed animal after their beloved pet dies. And so they just kind of, my mom did that. They raised Dobermans. And
yeah.
after they were done with that, she had this big life-size Doberman plush sitting on her bed just to remind her, I love that breed, but I
have to agree. I bought one of those lap cats that they feel like real fur. And it's like a curled up cat. I bought that for my mother when she had Alzheimer's and she was in a nursing home, and so she always had that in her lap. So yeah, you never know.
And really, the big ones aren't that hard to ship. You just telescope some boxes and
yep, I shoved that puppy down in there.
Make it happen. Yeah. When I sold that sloth, he got shipped in the yoga pose called shipping pose. His arms were all wrapped around him. And I shoved him down in there and taped that box up, and they were happy with it. Yeah. And what's funny is that sold around Christmas. And would you believe, around Valentine's in Walmart, they had the exact one. Oops. It was like $50. So I'm looking after Valentine's, like, are these going to go on clearance? If these go down to $10, I'll get some.
Yeah. Awesome.
But it was just, they're not available all the time. And Walmart did a promotion with all these giant stuffed animals for Valentine's. So sometimes the brand doesn't even matter. It's just
that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some other unusual. I've sold dental type apparatus. What were they? Dental something or others. I'm looking at my stuff. That was quite a while ago. But yeah, some electronics I've sold. Life magazine ads. Remotes. Like
remote
TV
controls.
remotes. But the one that I found was for a Lexus, for a car.
Really?
I didn't know they made remotes for cars. It's for the entertainment system in the car. Like in some cars, the DVD thing folds down. And
I guess if you're in the back watching a DVD or something.
Yeah. So this one wasn't an estate sale, and it's like, oh, all the remotes are like $2, whatever. And it was Lex. I saw had Lexus on it. Oh, awesome. $140. That was awesome.
Oh my gosh. And anything with Lexus, I would pick up too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a way that you can sort of test them. If you go online, you can find out how to test them. You use a mirror or something and see if the red light shows up or whatever.
Well, KC sells a lot of remotes and other people that I can't think of at the moment.
I know.
They say that they usually always work. They just get donated because people are moving or they don't have that.
They forgot they had the remote and they got rid of the piece.
Yeah, or maybe they got a universal one and didn't need the individual one or whatever. But it's good to know there's a way you can look up how to test them.
And you have to open the battery compartment you have to see if the battery compartment's corroded or not. I've actually sold some electronics, and so I was going back and looking at some of my sales, and it's like, I don't normally pick up electronics, but all of a sudden I'm seeing all these things that I did pick up and how much they were worth. I'm like, I should be looking more, because a Game Boy I sold, a portable scanner that's really literally only like less than a foot wide.
Mm-hmm.
It's called a Flip Pal. It's like, okay, it's $165. That's cool. Maybe I should be looking at electronics more, but you can't always test them. So even something that I sold for parts, one of those, the Sony Walkmans,
Mm-hmm.
the ones like from what's the movie, Galaxy movie,
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
His Walkman evidently is a big deal. And it didn't work. It like went like, okay. So I sold it, but I still sold it for $185. I don't understand. Yeah.
In non-working condition?
It said 4 parts, right?
And so it was probably from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe it was going to be used as a prop.
Maybe. I
There's
don't care.
There's so much of that going on now with these shows and movies that are set in the past. In fact, on my list for April is going to see the movie, the Judy Blume book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, that we all grew up reading over and over again.
and I've been looking for the book because I wanted to read it again.
And I'm like, I bet that movie is full of props that were bought on eBay because it's set 70s. So yeah, I'm trying to get some friends to go with me.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be more of us in our age group in the audience than younger.
It's like going to a concert for Rolling Stones. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And the mom is played by Rachel McAdams, and the crazy, wacky, hippie mom.
Yeah.
She'll be great. And Kathy Bates plays the grandmother. I love her.
I love Kathy Bates.
I'm just going to take my giant purse and smuggle some little wine bottles in there. Or go to like the movie tavern where you can order food and beverages. And but how dumb is that? I'm all excited about seeing a movie. And
we are recapturing our childhood.
I think I was in 6th grade when I read that book 400 times.
Yeah, I was a little older.
Anyway, so the point there was just non-working electronics, if they're vintage, maybe they're going to be used for props and it doesn't matter.
And that's one of those things. I don't care what they're doing with it as long as they buy it from me.
Yeah, and as long as they understand it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I put it in 3 places: in the title, in the description, and in the condition line. So it goes everywhere. So
yeah.
If it's really significant, I'll email them or I'll send them a message first. Do you realize?
Yeah, verify they know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many of those. I bought this by mistake, which I don't know how, because you only have to read the description. You have to go through 5 screens to buy something. And I think they just buy it while they're still looking so that nobody else will get it. And then,
and I think on the phone, you have to, it's another click to get into the description. And so I don't think they click into the description to read the whole thing.
Yeah, that happened twice last weekend. 2 different people bought different things, and they didn't say what their mistake was. They're like, oh, I bought this by mistake.
Yeah.
I feel like they're price shopping. And so they just go ahead and buy it. And then,
they hold it hostage.
They find a better deal. Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, I'll just cancel that. So
yeah, ideal, I just take it all and whatever. I'll just relist, whatever. I don't care.
When we're in charge of the world, we can say, if you buy something on eBay, you pay for it at that moment, like every other site.
Yeah. Every time I see somebody on say something about that on Facebook, I'm like, good luck with that. I don't see it happening. I don't care what they promise. I don't see it happening.
Right. I know, but it's just like, why? I guess it's because of the best offer feature.
Yeah.
They can't require immediate payment if you don't know what the amount is.
That could be it.
So I don't
That
know.
could be it.
But anyway, okay. So what other quirky things have you sold? Or non-quirky, regular things?
Not quirky, regular things. Well, let me think. Okay, here's something funny. I was at a garage sale and there was a bunch of scarves there. And the husband was doing the garage sale. Wife was inside, I guess. And I come across an Hermes scarf. Exactly what I did.
And for the listeners, it's Hermes.
Mhm.
It's not pronounced Hermes. It's Hermes because it's
Hermes.
French. So that is your word of the day.
I was like, how much do you want for this? He said, oh, all the scarves are $1.
Really?
My little heart fluttered. And I did sell it for 200, but I pictured that poor guy going back inside and her saying, you sold what? Sorry.
Well, if it wasn't priced, what was he going to do? He didn't know.
So I sold a pulse oximeter, which is I don't remember what it looks like, but I remember buying it at an estate sale. It's called a pulse oximeter.
Yeah, that's a medical device that tells you how much oxygen is in your blood or something.
Yeah. And I think it goes on your hand. I paid $4 for it. Sold it for $350.
Are you kidding? Was this during COVID?
No, this was a long time ago.
Okay,
Probably like 8 years
medical
ago.
Devices sold better during COVID because
I can see why. Yeah,
everybody was at home, like wanting to check on things.
You know what? One of the most unusual things that I like to sell is tickets. My old concert tickets.
Oh, you have your own.
Styx, Barry Manilow, Boston, all of the things. I saved them all.
Oh, Barry Manilow.
I know.
He is my favorite.
He's not selling well, but
us old people love him.
Yes. And, all these people are still alive. I don't know how they're doing it, but I've sold old concert tickets. They're just ticket stubs.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have ticket stubs anymore. It's all done online and through an app, and you show your QR code or whatever at the concert. So now, back then we had the ticket stubs, and I've sold them for $40, $50 just for the stub. Back when they were printed and with raised print and everything, they had little sparkles in them.
Uh-huh.
So
yep, they were like almost cardboard. They were thick.
Yes, and also the old tickets from Disney World and Disneyland. Those will sell.
I wish I had been smart enough to save that stuff.
Yeah, I had them all in a scrapbook and had to scrape them out. It's like
I'm just not a pack rat, and I tend to get rid of things too quickly.
Yeah, I do too now.
For not wanting the clutter and all. And it's just like,
yeah, my husband used to say, kids, you better watch out because mom will stick a barcode on you and sell you. So
yeah, that's what my kids used to say when they were going to school. I'm not done with that. Don't sell it.
My husband will say that too.
Those shoes still fit me, Mom. Don't sell them yet.
You know what's cool though is I'll learn something new. Let's say, you remember the Duffy Bears? For the
listeners,
for Disney.
Those are Disney teddy bears that were named after. They were named Duffy. And so there's pre-Duffy bears, and there's post, and there's regular Duffy. It's like a whole world, like a collector's world that you have to understand. But
they're like dolls,
and they have the hidden Mickey.
Yes, on the paws,
and
on the face.
The Mickey Mouse ears shape on their paws and maybe on their face.
Yeah.
That's what she's talking about.
So when I first heard about them, I was like, oh, I went to the thrift store, and by golly, there's one on the floor next to all of the plush. I'm like, okay, the eBay gods are looking out for me. But usually when I learn about something new, all of a sudden it's on your radar.
Mm-hmm.
And you go into a thrift store and there it is. So like like a certain type of fabric or a certain type of lovey or a Duffy Bear or anything like that. Ralph Lauren something. It's like all of a sudden it's like buying a new car. You buy a new car and all of a sudden you see those new all that type of car everywhere you look because your brain is really focused on that. And so listening and watching your premium library, watch one thing and then go to the thrift store and see what happens.
Okay, and that is called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon.
I knew there was a name for it.
This was a trivia question on a previous podcast, but that's a real thing. I'm reading it off the internet, so it has to be true. The Bader-Meinhof phenomenon refers to the false impression that something happens more frequently than it actually does, or you learn something new and then suddenly you see it everywhere.
That's it.
There's a name for that, but it's true. And so really, knowledge is power. The more you know.
Take one thing at a time and go looking for it.
And just put that in your brain, and then there it is. That happens to me all the time. I'll do a lesson or a class on something for the premium library, and because I want to learn about it. It's really very selfish. So it's like, what that is, I want to look that up. And so I'll make up a lesson, and then like 2 days later, I'll find one of them.
Yes. And I don't go to the thrift stores as much anymore. Obviously, we all know it's getting a little out of hand. So my big thing is garage sales and estate sales now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will find all of a sudden things will pop up at the estate sale. And you have to keep pivoting. The estate sale run, of course, I love the family run estate sales because they don't look up everything. Estate sales know to look up most everything, but like we say, they can't know everything, right?
Well, and like the family, I feel more emotionally drawn to that because you're helping them get stuff out of that house.
Yeah.
And their mission is to get that house clear so they can sell it or whatever they're going to do. And because I've been involved in this many times, it's when you're the executor of someone's estate and you have to handle all this, it takes a lot of time. It takes a huge chunk out of your life. And you really just want it to be over.
I know.
Want it to be done. So, they'll be like,
and I have been there.
And fill a bag for $2 and just like carry this stuff out. And you have this whole army of people coming to help you clean out that house.
Yeah, I've been through that when I was clearing out my parents' house in Alabama when I lived here. So it's like, okay, we got to get this done because we're going back home. And
even as a reseller doing it or helping a friend do it, it's still overwhelming. Because you just don't have the time to look up every single thing.
Oh, and there was stuff I let go that I wish now I had not because I didn't know what I know now.
Well, and the time crunch of getting that job done and getting back to your life is part of the issue there. And the estate sale company, they have to take a cut, so their prices are going to be higher.
Yes.
So anyway, were you telling a story and I interrupted you?
No, I don't think so. And now that when I go into estate sales, I really don't want them all. I don't want everybody to know I'm a reseller.
Right.
A lot of the estate sale people do. So I changed my notification, my eBay notification. It's usually the cha-ching sound. Mine says, yippee. And I tell people, oh, my daughter's texting me. I'm so happy.
Right. Yeah.
Texting me. So I put yippee on there.
I have mine on silent.
Yeah. I
like
to hear something because it just, yay.
I check my phone frequently, but
I
have it on silent because everybody knows that sound. And, I don't want people knowing what I'm doing. Ever.
Of course, in the middle of stuff, when something goes, yippee, everybody looks at you.
And it's
it's fun.
People say, oh, but you have this podcast and you have YouTube. Everyone knows you. No, they don't.
No,
the average person is clueless about eBay. every day
Isn't that the truth?
I meet somebody who's like, what? You resell that online? How does that work? You know, and
I don't know any, a lot of people know resellers around them. I mean, you know, in your own city, some resellers, but I don't personally know anybody who's a reseller here. I see the same people at estate sales all the time, but I don't really ask them what they do. It's like, do you have a store? Do you have a booth somewhere? Do you sell online? I don't really ask because not my business.
Well, and everybody does it different. So they're not necessarily your competitor.
Exactly.
There's people who only want fishing stuff, or
the jewelry
or I ran into this guy at Goodwill one time, and all he sells is vintage yardsticks.
Awesome.
I'm thinking, go for it. I'll get out of the way. You look at these. Fine. I'm not doing that. Like, that's what a pain to ship a yardstick. I'm sure he has a way, but
I'm sure he does.
You know, everybody's doing something different, or these people that do estate sales and then they put everything on auction and, you know, just try to get rid of it as fast as possible. Just do the turn and burn.
I am an equal opportunity seller. I will sell anything that comes my way. Literally anything. I was, on the online auctions, I was looking at one that the auctioneer had a picture of stuff in the closet. It's like everything in this closet. You're bidding on everything in this closet. And so I'm looking at it going, and then back in the corner, I saw something I did not recognize. It was big. I was like, it's $5. Nobody wants anything in this closet. So $5. And it ended up being a pipe warmer. It's just this thing you wrap around a pipe to keep it warm. I was like, okay, I don't know what it is. I had to really do some research to figure out what it was. And it ended up being, what was it, about a couple $100 that I sold it for, because nobody else looked way back in the back of that picture. But I don't buy full closets of stuff much anymore. Because boy, you get that home. It's like, okay, I open up the back of my car. That's going to Goodwill. That's going to Goodwill.
That's going in the trash.
Yes.
Well, speaking of the average person that doesn't really know reselling, when I moved to Greenville, I changed to a CPA here. And on our initial meeting, he was like, well, tell me about your business and what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm one of those crazy people that goes to thrift stores and buys stuff for $1 and sells it for 50. And he's like, now this is a CPA and he's been doing this job for 15 years. He's like, I've heard about that. I've heard about people like you. And I'm like,
that scares me that they don't know how to do your financial, because my husband is a CPA. So.
I mean, it's just, you know, he was plugged into the community and Chamber of Commerce and everything. And he had never run across a person that did this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, we're kind of a stealth breed. We just stay under the radar,
world,
kind of do our thing and don't really draw attention to ourselves.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of judgment about this.
There is.
You know, then you get people who know you that are like, well, you know, I had this thing from when my dad was in the war.
Can you yeah.
And, you know, my answer to that is, hey, I feel you. My plate's really full right now. I don't even have time to do my own stuff.
My brother-in-law, he's 82 or 80 or something like that. He thinks his stuff is worth a lot more than it is. It's like, I'm sorry. And I felt so bad telling him, no.
I know, don't shoot the messenger, but yeah, you might as well just throw that away.
Although I did sell one of his typewriters recently for $200. So there you go.
Oh, was it a Royal?
Yeah, it was one of the old Royal black ones. Yeah.
Okay, I saw that in a movie the other night. I was like, that's a Royal typewriter. It's sick what we know.
I know, it's scary.
How many items do you have in your store?
About 870, something like that right now, but a lot of smalls. You know, I do a lot of smalls.
And how many average do you sell a day? People always like to do that. If there's a correlation. Yeah,
I would say 2 or 3 a day, maybe. Because I'm into anywhere from postcards to the really big stuffed animals. You know?
Yeah, you sell a wide variety of items.
I do. I do.
Okay.
Whenever I find a new niche, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna learn about that.
And it's never ending.
I know, it's fun.
Just
That's what makes it so fun. Is there's
I
always
can't
something new to learn.
I can't believe how well I'm doing with baseball hats. Just
Yeah, I
I
have
see
in
one in the
back
background.
here.
Is that Jack Daniels?
Yeah, today is hat day.
Oh, there's a whole bunch back there. Okay.
Yeah. And I've got more to photograph. So today's hat day.
And how much are your hats there when you
Oh,
buy them?
I usually sell them between 20 and 40.
And you pay for what, $1?
Oh, $1. Yeah. Usually
Yeah.
garage sales. I buy them at
That's the
garage.
thing is they're cheap and they're fun and you
Mhm,
can use that ball cap washer in the dishwasher thing that
mhm.
you set on the top rack. Did that
And
last night. I found
one
a whole
thing,
stack yesterday of automotive hats.
yeah.
So some of them were brand new, like Toyota, Ford Mustang with the horse on the front.
Yeah.
And I found a Rolex
Oh,
hat.
that's
I just
awesome.
got it because it said Daytona, like Daytona 500. It said Daytona 24 Rolex, and it was brand new. It still had the cardboard thing inside of it, and it was in this stack. Like somebody just donated that whole stack,
Yeah.
and I looked it up, and I've got it priced at 125 because it's
Awesome.
Rolex.
Isn't it funny when you start salivating at a store? It's like, oh, I want
Yeah,
this.
just like put it in your cart and put something over it so nobody
Yeah.
sees. Like,
The
does
thing
anyone
about
else know
the
this?
thing about the thing about hats is I bag them and I box them when I ship them
Uh-huh.
because hat collectors
Mm-hmm.
don't like it when it's all creased up and thrown in a poly bag. I have found. And when a lot of times when people buy hats, they will message me before I ship it and say, please put this in a box. Please put it in a box. Well, okay, no problem.
Well, obviously, like the mesh back ones that have a shape, you
Yes.
definitely want to put those in a box.
Yeah, those low profile hats, I'll throw those in a poly bag. But yeah, I love hats.
If it might be collectible, then package it well because you don't want to hear about that. So, do you remember a hat that sold for a lot of money?
Not off the top of my head. I could look it up.
Top of your head. That's a good one.
Okay, that was unintentional, but hey.
That was very punny.
Funny.
But yeah, they're so easy to photograph. And I made up this gadget. Like I'm always trying to figure out how can I do things faster and more efficiently without sacrificing quality. So I have one of those turntables. It's like I guess Rubbermaid or something turntable, like you put spices on. And then I have a styrofoam head and I use painter's tape and tape the head to the turntable. So I put the hat on it, quarter turn, take a picture, quarter turn, take a picture. Yeah, I was like so proud of myself for that little invention.
Well, and now eBay allows video. So there's some things that I will put on my turntable and do that.
Oh, you do the same thing?
I bought a bump cap insert for hats.
What is that?
So I don't use my styrofoam head anymore. If you go on Amazon, it's just called a bump cap insert. Like a construction hat. On the inside, there's an insert that I don't know why it has an insert on it, but it's just this little gray thing. Let me get it. And I'll show you. I mean, nobody else can see it, but this is what it looks like. It's
it's like a little helmet.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's what goes on the inside of a construction hat. Okay. And so I can lay this on the table with the hat on it, and it makes it really easy for background removal.
Okay. So, yeah, and that's a different shape than the styrofoam head. It's bigger because
it really fills it out really well.
Sometimes the head is too small for the hat. It kind of the hat's too big for the head and it looks weird.
And this is flexible, so if the hat's small.
What a great idea. I'm going to check that out. Thank you for that suggestion.
So I found a couple of really odd hats. One's called Everything's Regular. I don't, it's a brand. It's like this camouflage weird hat. I tried to look it up, but I don't know, somebody bought it for $50. So I don't know. But yeah, I generally my hats will sell between $20 and $40.
And that is an excellent return if it only costs you
It
$1.
is.
And
It is.
speaking of returns, they don't get returned.
They don't. They don't. But one of the hats I found is not a baseball cap. It's, dance teams from high school. They wear the sequined cowboy hats, that kind of thing. Found one of those and sold it.
Especially in Texas.
Yeah. Well, there's this thing down in Round Top, Texas called, it's twice a year, Antiques Week. And they have this thing called prom, where women and men, they just come and they dress in the most craziest things. And so around here, that's one of the things I use as a keyword is Round Top prom. And
Okay.
they literally wear prom dresses to this thing. So, but it's called Junkorama. But that's a really regional thing.
Okay. So have you been selling hats a long time, or is this a new experience?
Within the last couple of years. I like to sell military hats, the ones from different ships and submarines. I used to collect them for my son, but then he said, "Mom, I'm not really interested. Just find one that has my submarine on it." So I sold that whole collection. But the different USS Hampton, the USS Sandlance, all of these different military hats, and people like to buy those for their parents or grandparents. I served on that ship, or I served on that boat. And yeah.
Well, I've really never been a hat wearer. And
yeah,
I was looking for things that were inexpensive, that you can flip for good profit, and lightweight, easy to store. I mean, you can fit like 100 of them in a Rubbermaid tub.
That's right.
And of course they don't expire, and I don't buy them if they're really filthy. I mean, you can wash them in OxyClean and all that, but
the strange thing is some people really like them when they're just trashed. It depends, like the old John Deere type hats or whatever. Distressed.
Yes, that's the eBay word, distressed.
But I just don't know which ones sell well trashed and which
I know,
ones don't.
me either. And so I'm experimenting with what sells and like with what logo and what design. I really only buy the embroidered ones because screen printing is cheap and the embroidered ones are going to last longer. But I've noticed that golf course hats, anything with beer or liquor. I've got a Breckenridge Brewery one I found. And I was like, that's cool.
I've got a Grand Marnier one that's up
like I'm waiting to find one from the Grove Park Inn, which is close to Greenville. Very swanky place. Just like what I've got several Starbucks hats, obviously from a uniform.
Really?
I keep finding those. So I'm thinking maybe people don't work at Starbucks very long and then they donate their uniform.
Well, and people love to buy uniforms, especially from fast food.
Really? Okay. Talk to me about that, because I have
not found any recently, but McDonald's, if it's got McDonald's on the sleeve, or it was their uniform that they wore there, or Chick-fil-A,
like vintage ones, or just any?
No. For some reason, it's a thing with millennials.
I keep seeing these Domino's pizza shirts, and I'm like, I'm going to get one next time I see it my size, and then get a Domino's pizza box, and that's going to be my Halloween costume.
Maybe that's what it is.
Or maybe I'll just go to people's door and just be like, "Hi, your pizza's here." And they'll be like, "We didn't order one."
Yeah, for some reason. I mean, I have not really looked them up. I just know it's a thing.
Okay.
I'm not actively looking for those things, but maybe I will.
Well, I know like the vintage, extremely ugly, what was that stuff? That scratchy polyester stuff everything was made of. I worked at a grocery store when I was in college, and we had to wear those horrible stretchy polyester pants with plastic top, and like you just run your hand over that fabric and just you cringe. Yeah. And so it was brown. It was the most horrible thing in the world. And like those sell. I have a friend that one time borrowed a Waffle House waitress uniform and went, that was her Halloween costume.
Maybe that's what it is mainly. Now, the one thing I will not sell UPS, FedEx, or military uniforms.
Yeah, or
I
police,
won't do that.
law enforcement.
Right.
That's kind of illegal. You don't want to
Yeah, I won't do
impersonate a
that.
law enforcement officer.
The only military uniform I've ever sold was my son's. They call it their O coat, their overcoat,
Mhm.
but it doesn't say Navy on it. It doesn't have any emblems or anything. But it's this 40-pound coat. I
I've
swear.
sold one of those pea coats with the
Yes.
buttons up on the front,
And
and
this one was one of his long ones. He ended up with 2 of them for some reason.
the label says something about
It'll say Navy
military.
on it.
Oh, it does say Navy? Okay,
Yeah,
it was a
it'll say
long
Navy.
time ago, but yeah, that coat was so heavy.
Yes. And he says they're miserable.
I can
He says they're
imagine.
just miserable pieces of clothing.
Okay, well, would you believe we've been going almost an hour? And here we
You
are.
go so fast. You're so fun to talk to.
It's like talking to a friend about
I know.
our secret eBay business. Because while there seems like there's a lot of us, if you look at the numbers in the groups, on Facebook groups and social media, there's really not.
No.
I would love
And
to
we're
know
scattered everywhere.
I would love to know the percentage of resellers to the general population. Like, is it
There's
1
no
in 20?
telling.
Is it 1 in 50? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be interesting to know. But like you said, when you go out sourcing for inventory, everybody's doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's the one thing about, all the YouTubers and everything that are putting out their sales, and like we do on Facebook and everything. It's like, in my opinion, I feel like that keeps the price up instead of having competition. It's like, okay, this is worth a lot of money. Don't price it down here.
right.
And so I think sharing this information is helpful for keeping prices up for the most part.
I agree with that. Although some people would say, but then the thrift stores know, and they're going to mark their prices up. And
that's why you pivot.
I don't buy into that. It's not sustainable, because if you look at employee turnover at thrift stores, they don't stay very long.
Yeah.
People just don't do it. It's not really a career.
No.
So by the time that one person in intake learns what things are worth, if they ever even do, because that's a lot of things to remember.
Yes.
Okay, they learned it. They're pricing things high, and then they go get a different job, and
Yep.
they have to start all over training somebody new. And it's just, and like you said, it's constantly changing.
And I've seen the warehouse where you drop off donations here in Flower Mound. It's a local, it's called CCA, Christian Community Action. Their warehouse literally is, floor to ceiling. The ceiling's 100 feet tall, where they have the forklifts where they have to take the Gaylords up really high. And there's like a stack of 6 Gaylords high, and the amount of stuff they get, I can't imagine. And somebody's got to go through that.
And I'm like
They can't catch
salivating.
everything.
I want to go in there and
I
shop.
know.
Can I just give you $100?
Don't jump in.
Can I give you $100 and you let me go shop in your warehouse?
So things slip through. I still find things at Goodwill. I do.
Oh, absolutely. And because it comes back to the human element.
Mm-hmm.
The human eyes looking at these products has to decide, well, in the human brain, has to decide how much to charge for it. And I go back to these employees, because I've been that employee that's like, oh God, I get off in 2 hours. I don't even know.
I know.
And
Just put it out there. Just put it out there.
$1 on it. I don't care.
It's like me at a garage sale. Oh, please let me get rid of this stuff.
Yeah, just the person seeing it has to know and care about the value. And I think there's too much human involvement. You're never going to systemize this to automate pricing intake for putting out on the floor.
Because it's not a retail business. It's not a retail business like most are.
Yeah, like Kohl's, where they know what everything costs and they tag it. This is different. So that is some encouragement to people out there that think, oh, all these reselling channels and this podcast, you're teaching people how to price things too high in thrift stores. And I'm like, well, first of all, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
because I'm not that arrogant to think that they're all listening to me. Most people don't want to learn. They're lazy and they don't want to learn. And so they're just, doing other types of entertainment, listening to music or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're ever going to run out of bargains, because almost every person I talk to that does eBay is like, yeah, they can't catch everything. I found this.
Yeah.
What about that couch that got donated to Goodwill and had $10,000 stuffed in the
Well, that's why I like garage sales and estate sales, or garage sales mainly, because they don't know to look everything up.
Mm-hmm.
They'll paste a piece of paper on there that says, hey, this is selling for such and such on eBay. Well, you didn't look at this over here, this little 50-cent handheld video game that I just sold for $100.
Right. Or even if they do have the sign, this is selling for how much on eBay.
They don't know that it's not sold.
You just pull out that cash and say, I got $10. We take $10 for it. And it really depends on how late in the day it is.
Yes.
Like, how many people have walked by and they're not buying it. They're not buying that baby monitor for $50. They'll pay you $10.
Yeah.
So, that I find taking out cash at garage sales
is a big motivator.
It really is. It's that visual of, there's $20. I'll take that.
You want this, or you want to take it back in the house?
Right. So, okay. Well, the last question is about advice. Do you have any advice for sellers out there that want to get to your level? 800 items in your store. That's a lot.
Well, first and foremost, learn, of course, but don't think you have to go buy all of the stuff for your business right away. I started out with a desk, a shelf in my closet, and my scale, my weight scale. As I make more money, I buy new things, but don't think you have to have everything that everybody else has. You don't need that thermal printer right away. You don't need that turntable, that electric that does everything for the video. You don't need all that right away. But also take other YouTube people with a grain of salt. I mean, you and I know there's a lot out there. It's like, I got this big haul. This is what it's going to sell for. Well, tell me what it sold for. And stay organized. Physically, financially, stay organized. Know where you stand financially. I pay for specific, I'm very picky about what I pay for. I'll pay for education, and I'll pay for, I use Quicken, for all of my financial. My husband is a CPA, so he appreciates that.
Oh, that's the God smiling down on you.
Funny thing is, I'm the one that takes care of all the financial stuff in the house. He does the investments. But have an inventory system from the get-go. Don't just think you're going to be able to find stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Have your inventory, and don't be afraid to sell international. That's what I do. So,
is your inventory numbered, or do you number it by the bin?
Every single piece has its own inventory, and I have these little numbers that I put on them that I print out on a piece of paper, and every single item has its own number. And in the SKU area, of the listings on eBay, the custom SKU, it's got the number of the item, what I paid for it, and where it's located. So whatever shelf, whatever bin, whatever anything, I know exactly where it is, what the number is. And I do that because somebody else has to find it sometimes.
Okay. Well, we are going to wrap this up. And thanks again for coming on. And
I am honored.
See what you sell, and we'll look for you on the Facebook group.
Awesome.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again, Anne, for coming on the podcast and openly sharing your eBay wisdom. Today's trivia question has nothing to do with anything we discussed in this podcast. I heard two people talking about this in the line at the grocery store, and well, they were just wrong. The question is, what is popcorn lung? Here are a few seconds to think about it while listening to some delicious corn popping, of course. Too bad this isn't smell-o-vision. Can you smell that delicious popcorn cooking? Okay, what is popcorn lung? The medical name is bronchiolitis obliterans, and it is an uncommon type of lung disease, but not cancer. It's caused by a buildup of scar tissue in the lungs, which blocks the flow of air. A possible link has been suggested between this disease and a chemical called diacetyl, diacetyl. Probably not pronouncing it right, but we're going with it. Okay, what causes popcorn lung? A group of popcorn factory workers developed the condition, leading to the name popcorn lung. They had breathed in diacetyl as it was used as a flavoring in the popcorn. It was not related to the use of e-cigarettes. In 2000, a physician reported that 8 former microwave popcorn factory workers had developed a rare and disabling lung disease, bronchiolitis obliterans. 4 of the 8 workers were ill and put on lung transplant waiting lists. After investigating numerous possible sources, researchers ultimately determined the cause of lung damage, a vapor from butter flavoring added to the popcorn. So the slang term popcorn lung has nothing to do with anything popping in the lungs. It is named after the microwave popcorn factory where the disease/condition first started in the year 2000. So now you can impress your friends with that knowledge. But if you're like me, you have to refrain from correcting strangers in public, as I have to do on a daily basis. If you hear this or anything else referred to incorrectly, just keep it to yourself and move on. Okay, next week, my guest is Sonia, who has the most amazing story. She was deeply moved by the podcast with Leslie, who found the painting. And Sonia sent me an email. And well, we both knew she needed to be on the podcast to tell her story. Let's just say there are no coincidences in life. Everyone should believe in the signs and watch for opportunities. This is definitely a good news story. I mean, come on. Don't we have enough bad news in the world? We need some good news. So you don't want to miss this. Okay, that concludes this episode. I appreciate all of you out there listening. And as the great Casey Kasem used to say, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Talk to y'all next week. Bye, everybody.